Hello dear listener. Please subscribe to our channel and enjoy watching. I never saw it coming, at least not the way it all unraveled. Claire, my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, had always been the picture of loyalty. We had a beautiful home in the suburbs of Atlanta, a solid marriage and a daughter we both adored. To everyone who knew us, we were the perfect couple. But perfection can be deceiving. Sometimes what you think is solid begins to fracture, and the cracks reveal truths you never imagined. When the cracks in my life appeared, they threatened to take everything I held dear. It started on an ordinary evening. I was sitting in my office, poring over financial reports, when I noticed Claire's phone on the kitchen counter. She often left it there when heading to bed, but something about it caught my attention. The screen was on, the glow faint but noticeable. A text notification lingered on the screen. The sender's name was Tyler. I told myself it was probably nothing, just a friend, a colleague, someone she was discussing a project with. But something about it felt off. I should have ignored it, trusted her. But I didn't. I picked up the phone. The first message was simple. "Hey babe, you free tonight?" followed by a heart emoji. My stomach twisted into a knot. I didn't know who Tyler was, but I knew this wasn't work-related. My pulse quickened as I scrolled through the messages, unable to stop myself. There were dozens of them, text after text, photos, even videos. Each one more intimate than the last. Claire had been having an affair with Tyler for 6 months. I was blindsided. No, completely shattered. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had shared something with another man that I thought was sacred between us. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, a sickness that churned in the pit of my stomach. But as the shock subsided, something darker took its place, the urge for revenge. Claire didn't deserve my forgiveness, not now, not ever. And I couldn't just let her walk away with everything we had built, not after what she had done. If she was planning to betray me so thoroughly, I would make sure she paid for it. The first thing I did was hire a private investigator. I needed answers, everything she had hidden, every lie she had told, and every detail of her deceit. I wasn't just seeking confirmation, I wanted to understand the depths of her betrayal. The investigator's report came a week later. Claire and Tyler had been meeting in various hotels across the city, their rendezvous carefully planned during my business trips or times when I was with our daughter. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning a future together. Claire had talked about leaving me, splitting our assets, taking half of everything. The house, the cars, the savings, everything we had worked so hard to build. Her betrayal wasn't just personal, it was calculated. She was preparing to dismantle the life we had created. And so, I began preparing too. I reached out to Henry, a trusted lawyer who had handled our legal matters over the years. He was sharp, discreet, and meticulous, exactly the person I needed to help execute my plan. Together, we strategized a way to protect what was mine and ensure Claire didn't walk away unscathed. The first step was to rewrite my will. I hadn't planned on changing it anytime soon, but now it was necessary. I wanted to ensure that if anything happened to me, Claire wouldn't see a single dime. I also wanted her to know exactly what she had thrown away. Henry crafted a will that was a masterpiece of legal precision, with one small strategic clause that would make it unforgettable. The day I revealed the new will was a cold, dreary Tuesday. I had carefully orchestrated the moment, arranging for Claire and me to meet with Henry at his office. She walked in unsuspecting, unaware of what was about to unfold. She had no idea her perfect plan was about to collapse. As we sat across from Henry's polished mahogany desk, I couldn't help but watch Claire, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit her. She wore that same confident smile she'd had for years, the one that used to charm me but now only reminded me of her betrayal. She had no idea I already knew everything, and that made it almost too easy. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but I forced myself to stay calm. Henry, always professional, cleared his throat and turned to me. "Shall we proceed, Mr. Turner?" he asked, his voice steady and formal. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "Claire," Henry began, his tone measured, "we've made some updates to your husband's will. It's important you understand the changes." Claire tilted her head slightly, an eyebrow raised. "What changes?" she asked, her tone light and unconcerned as if she didn't suspect a thing. I watched her closely, barely able to contain myself. She had no idea what was coming. Henry continued, "First, your husband has decided to leave the majority of his estate to a charitable trust. This trust will specifically benefit children's education programs in the local community." Claire's brow furrowed slightly, her smile faltering just a bit. "And?" she asked, her voice now tinged with unease. "You," Henry said, pausing for effect, "are named as the beneficiary of a specific portion of the estate. However, My heart thudded in my chest. This was it. Henry paused again, letting the tension build before delivering the final blow. This portion of the estate will only be yours if you do not divorce your husband or, more importantly, if you are not romantically involved with another individual during the year following the execution of this will. Should either condition be violated, the will becomes null and void, and the entire estate will be donated to charity. Claire's face went pale, the blood draining as the weight of Henry's words sank in. I could almost hear her thoughts racing as she processed what this meant. If she left me or continued her affair, she would lose everything. She wasn't the only one with a plan. In the months that followed, our life became a delicate game of cat and mouse. Claire tried to act as though nothing had changed. She stopped texting Tyler, at least openly. She became more affectionate at home, cooking meals, suggesting therapy sessions, and even pretending to be the loving wife she hadn't been in months. But I knew it was all a facade, a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion while she figured out her next move. Meanwhile, I stayed 3 steps ahead. I knew her well enough to predict her every decision. And I had uncovered something else about Tyler, a piece of his life Claire hadn't yet discovered. He wasn't just her charming lover. He was also a man with a dark past. Tyler had been involved in shady business dealings, ones that had gone south. He owed money to dangerous people, people who wouldn't hesitate to make an example of him. I decided to use this to my advantage. One night, I arranged for a private investigator to stage a confrontation between Tyler and one of his associates. The scene was meticulously planned. Claire needed to see the truth, not just about Tyler but about the consequences of her choices. That evening, as Claire returned from a work event, she opened the door to a sight that froze her in her tracks. Tyler stood in the living room, his face pale and panicked, flanked by a large, intimidating man in a dark suit. "Claire," Tyler stammered, his voice shaking. I didn't mean for it to end like this. I swear." Before she could respond, the suited man spoke, his voice low and gravelly. "Your friend here owes us money. He's been playing both sides and now it's time to pay." Claire's face drained of color as she pieced together what was happening. She looked at Tyler, then back at the stranger and finally at me as I stepped out from the shadows. "This," I said quietly, my voice steady, "is what happens when you make deals with the devil." Her eyes widened in horror. She hadn't just betrayed me, she'd entangled herself with a man who could destroy her in more ways than one. The fallout was swift. The next morning, I took her to Henry's office and had her sign the divorce papers. She was left with nothing, not a penny. The final blow came when Henry reiterated the details of the will. Everything would go to charity and Claire would be left with nothing but regret. Her shock was palpable, but it wasn't just the financial loss that crushed her. It was the realization that her betrayal had cost her everything she had ever taken for granted. As I left the office, my phone buzzed. It was Henry. "There's something you need to know," he said. I frowned. "What is it?" "There's a clause in the will you might not have accounted for. The charitable trust only activates if both spouses are alive for 1 year following its execution." The words hit me like a hammer. He didn't know, I hadn't told anyone, but I was living on borrowed time. I had been diagnosed with terminal cancer months ago. Claire would never know. She had lost everything and in the end so had I. But there was one difference. I had chosen to fight back, and I had made sure she felt the weight of her choices before the clock ran out on mine. What did you think of this story? Let us know your thoughts. It helps us find more stories you'll love. Thank you for listening.